It's this idea that kindness is not weakness. That kindness actually has its own strength to it. And the biblical story we've been looking at, just to tie it back in, is this ancient story of Abraham. He goes to rescue his relative Lot. There's these bad guys in the story who are out to do really bad things. And from a Christian New Church perspective, we hold that as, well, what's the picture here? What's this really telling us about ourselves? Because we all have that part, right? That part that is just out to mug other people, that is not good. And how is it that, again, like this tension between the better parts of our nature, better angels of our nature, and the lower parts of our nature, how is it that we sort through that? And one is just finding this real clarity around, these are some of the paradigms that the lower parts of us, the darkness, the shadow, whatever you want to call it, the evil, the sinful, whatever word you use, these are some of the paradigms that part of our life can really buy into, that we need to be super, super careful with. And as always with any of these things, do they contain a grain of truth? Absolutely. But just a grain, just a little bit. So we have to see them in a broader context. So let me read you from the book Secrets of Heaven. And this is from 2382. And what it's talking about here is this part. They're kind of surrounded in this city. There's a bunch of the bad guys out. The bad guys are out to get them. What do those bad guys picture? And here's where it talks about that. The men who are at the door symbolize rational ideas and doctrines growing out of them, which are used to browbeat neighborly kindness. I like that translation. Trying to demolish both kindness done from love and the Lord's divinity and holiness. So it's this browbeating of kindness, and that can happen a lot of the time when people will look at, and I can get into this, right? We can look at somebody working to be kind, and we can sort of be like, well, that's not the way the real world works, and go to more of a power orientation than a kindness orientation. And friends, kindness is what really in the end matters so much, and it's not sort of they said it had a little grain of truth in it, that kindness can sometimes be taken too far, obviously. But a lot of that kind of kindness, it's based on a codependency, like where we're so codependent on the other person's reaction to us that we're falling all over ourselves to be kind and kinder and kinder and kinder. And then we have to flip that over to here, where we see a different kind of kindness. It's a kindness that really sees the big picture. It's a kindness that is very, very, very clear. And that's one I'm going to be working on for a future sermon. I was working on that a little bit this morning. But just this idea of kindness and clarity going together, that the two really work very well together. And when we're kind in a healthy way, we're super clear about what the right thing to do is. And it's not that if we're coming from a kind place, that we can't say the hard thing. Of course we can say the hard thing, but we're saying it with kindness. We're saying it with goodwill. We're saying it not as a bully. We're not going to the power thing. We're not trying to put us up here and other people down there. It gets sort of the self-righteousness thing we talked about yesterday. It's just simply a kindness and an openness of heart. And it should feel, that kind of kindness should feel like this, like it's going in and wrapping us very tightly in a very warm blanket. That, yep, this is just where we're going to come from. And that can be an incredibly powerful place to be, because what might be the power in that kindness? Well, one idea might be this, and play around with this a little bit. When we could really hold kindness and really see the power in it, what it might give us, and listen to this beautiful quote. This is actually from Kate Ballard, who I really enjoy. She referred to a wider patience. And I think that is what really can happen. When we're coming from a kind place, we really do start to have a wider patience. And I know it's one of the advantages. I just turned 60 a couple weeks ago, and it is one of the advantages of getting older is I think for the vast majority of us, we do start to develop a wider patience, because we've seen the world, we've seen all kinds of challenges by the time you reach this point in time in life, and just much more able to be patient, and yep, things will work out. May not work out the way you want, may not work out the way you hoped, but things tend to sort of realign themselves and work out in some fashion. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And that wider patience seems to me to be deeply supported by kindness. I know, speaking Personally, when I'm not kind, I'm not patient. I want that. I come from power. I want people to change right away. I want them to change right away the way I want them to change, and I know the way that they need to change. It's very different than a kindness that's very centered and grounded, but also more curious, more open to the specific needs a person might have, and far more open to the idea that very little in life is solved today. Most of life is made up. This is key. Preach on it a lot. Most of life is not made up of problems we solve. Most of life is made up of tensions we manage. And that managing of the tensions of life, that's made so much easier when kindness is just at our core. And it really does have its power. I mean, I've a dear friend of mine, very successful teacher, taught with him for a lot of years, unfailingly kind. Like I remember it occurring to me in the midst of my teaching career that I never had heard him talk negatively about a student. And for me, I could drop it right there, and I could drop a critique of any student I felt was not quite making it up to snuff at any particular moment. I mean, craziness. This guy never did that. Incredibly successful teacher, huge power in the classroom, huge power in the school, because he was just coming from such a good place and everybody knew it. He also was disciplined. He worked hard. He had high expectations of the students. Like, all those things can be part of kindness. Kindness is not necessarily wishy-washy. If it is wishy-washy, it's probably more taking, sort of borrowing out of the codependency model. But this kind of kindness I'm talking about is very much the kind of empowered kindness that we see Jesus living, and that we, in our own very imperfect ways, we can try to live as human beings. So that's the thought for today, friends. Is just remember, kindness is not a weakness. Figure out a way to exercise it. And this is hard to get into words, but see if you can figure out a way to let it settle into your heart, just like where it has this kind of feel. Like, I'm going to allow it to settle, and I'm going to allow it to become a beacon. I'm going to allow it to become a North Star, not something from codependency, but something that in the end comes from deep love and would have us live the way God would have us live. So that's the thought for today, friends. I hope that makes a lot of sense. And what we're going to do now, as we always do at New Church Live, we come in for a soft landing. What does that look like? Well, it looks like a prayer bow, looks like a meditation, looks like a prayer, and then we close with a blessing, and then we'll say hi to anyone who's joining us live on Facebook this morning. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. And the prayer bow. Line from the Old Testament. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to anyone who might have joined us this morning on Facebook. So we'll pull that on up. All right, here. Good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Rita, great to see you joining us, my friend. I hope life's going well. And Marcus, good to see you this morning as well. Hope everything is going well for you folks and you have a beautiful day ahead of you. And now taking a look over here. Linda writes, managing the the tensions of life. Yes, something to remember. And you know what? It's Linda. It's like it's one of those little ones. I remember the first time I heard that, I thought, oh, that really is it. Like life just is filled with tensions, and so many of them are not going to be solved in this life. Like I guarantee you have you have friends. Guarantee all of us have friends, no matter if you're from the right or the left, come from a very different political persuasion than you. Do you really think you're going to convince them otherwise? I would hope not, because that is not a problem to be solved. That's a tension to be managed. And that's sort of a lighter one, but there's all that stuff out there, right? Just how do we manage these tensions? Well, simple one-word answer, we manage them with kindness.